Hello and welcome to this video for Blackboard Learn. Today we're hanging out in the Grade Center and we're going to take a look at something very specific called categories. Now each of your columns within the Grade Center can be associated with a category. So if you have all your assignments and you associate them with a category, you could use that entire category to come out with a percentage, come out with a point value, also to create a weighted total column with the aggregate score based off percentages using categories. Now just saying that sounds a little bit confusing, so let's just take a look exactly what categories are. They're very simple to use and simple to create. If you go to the Manage button, you go down to Categories. So you can see that Blackboard already gives you a set of categories that you can utilize within the Grade Center depending on the columns you have. Now I've found that I do not like to use these columns within the Grade Center by default because I don't use all of them. Some of them don't describe accurately what I'm putting things into. Now if they are, then you could just use these categories right out of the box. Now you can't remove these categories. Now one little trick that I did find is if I go to Create Category and I put a unique value at the front. So let's just say this is my Blackboard course, which it is, my Blackboard instruction course. So I would just put BB underscore, and then I just can start coming up with some category names. So I might want assignments to be in here. So I'll put BB assignments. Hit submit, and you'll notice this little checkbox comes to the left to let you know that you've made this one and you can actually remove it. Now why did I put this little BB underscore at the beginning or any kind of prefix to this this kind of a category, and there's already assignments in there? Why would I do that? Well, let me show you why. If I created another category, let's call this one BB underscore tests. It's putting all the categories I put in here right next to each other because it alphabetizes this list. So if I went ahead and put in another category, let's say BB discussions. And maybe one more. So there we go. I added a few custom categories, and now you can see that by adding that prefix they're going to set next to each other. Now how do you use these categories is the question. Well, there's a few ways. Number one, if I go and I'm going to click OK, I'm going to get back into the Grade Center, you go to the individual column. So I have this ASN, this assignment 1. I can go to the drop down arrow here. I can edit the column information, and right in the column creation screen you'll notice there's a category drop down. You can just hit that drop down, any of the columns that you've added in there will be in there. You see how it puts them all together because I put that prefix on there? Well, that's why I do that, because then they're all together. You know that you're putting the right columns in the right categories if you decide to go this route. Now again, I don't want to say you can't use any of these, you totally can. I just find it easier for myself to go this route. So this first one's an assignment. I'm going to click on BB assignments and I'll hit submit. So I just classified one of my columns as a category. Now how's another way to do that? Well, you could go to the column organization screen instead and assign categories en masse. So here's that assignment 1. We had actually put it into its own section, so there's its category. But if we go down here a little bit more, we have like this test 1 has no category, and actually all these other assignments do not have categories. So let's say we wanted to classify all these tests in a test category. I can click on that test, this test here, and I think that's all the tests. Oh, here's an essay test. And then you can highlight the Change Category To button and select all those categories that you want to assign it to. So now it's BB test, BB test, BB tests. So I can keep going through this list. So assignment 2, 3, and 4. I can go through there, change category to, select assignments, and it changes all those to the assignments category. So now I can hit submit, and it's going to apply all those columns to those categories. If I go back to my Manage button, I can take a look at my categories, and you'll see the specific areas that got classified in those different categories. Now you'll notice that there's no little checkbox next to the left of these, and that's because I've added columns to that category, so you can't remove a category that has columns in there. So as I would go through, you could start classifying the columns as you add them into your grade center. You can do it all at the end. And then how do you make use of the categories? Well, one of the most common ways to use a category within Blackboard is to use the weighted total column and to show different adjustments within that area. So for example, if I went to weighted total and I hit edit column information, I can scroll down to the bottom here and you can see that I can break things down based upon their categories. So for example, I have these 4 categories I want to throw over into this menu. So even just by highlighting them, I use the shift button to click on the first one and the last one, and then it selected all of them. You'll notice that it shows you the columns that are in each of those categories. So then I can put them over in this list on the side. Gotta click this bottom button. And then I can adjust it and say, well, tests are worth 25% of the grade. You can say that discussions are worth 25% of the grade, and you kind of get the point here. I'm just putting in a random percentage, and what it's going to do, it's not going to care how many columns are in that category or anything. It's just going to say this category is worth 25% of the grade. So you see that I've been able to use categories to make that kind of an adjustment. And now one other nice thing about categories is when you use a category and you throw it over into this side of the menu and you're creating some sort of calculated column, you can drop grades that are the highest grade or the lowest grade within each category. Very neat stuff here. So for example, in the assignments, maybe I was going to be very nice. They had, say, 10 assignments and I want to drop the lowest 2 grades. Well, I could just put a 2 right there. It's automatically going to drop the lowest 2 grades in that category and give you a total of those remaining 8 scores. So that's going to conclude this video on categories in Blackboard. Thank you. Have a good day.